King James was not black. My man here, Edward Byrne. I like that name, Edward Byrne. Hi, hello, how you doing? My name is Edward Burns. I like that. All right, so Edward, I know we've had a little conversation going back and forth a little bit, but King James was not black. I know that the Hebrew Israelites greatly desire for him to be black, and they have some incorrect information that they are utilizing to convince people that they are black because they're hoping that you don't go and do any research whatsoever. And by showing you that he is not black, I think it should show you that my motives that I said that were for King James were actually true. Because when you think about the morality of what I'm going to say after I show you that historically he was not black, you will agree with me. I ain't gonna say you agree with me because it depends on what you desire. You're gonna stick to your guns if you truly want to, no matter what. But so let's look at it. And you also asked about the Ethiopian Bible. I'm going to talk about that at the end. King James was not black. One of the main reasons that the Hebrew Israelites will make this claim is because they will show you a couple of images that shows a dark-looking King James and a dark-looking Mary, Queen of the Scots. They do look dark. Unfortunately, they're not, because as an art student, a former art student, when I was in junior high, we went through this process that's called line sketching. The line sketching is something that came out in Germany in like the 1500s, and then it was used up into the 1900s. But I had one of those school teachers, art teachers, who we did all kind of stuff. All right, so what you do is you take a piece of copper, a dark metal. You take a piece of copper and you create an image on that copper in order to use it to print on paper or other types of material, to print an image, and you can reproduce that print over and over and over and over again, kind of like how we print money. We have it on like a metal little brick thing and a plate, and you can print money over there by adding ink to it, or any other colors or whatever you want to do. You can do that. When you're doing lining, what you have to do in order to create depth or to create shadows is you have to etch out curved lining across like the face. Like if you want to create the depth in the eyes, from the nose in here, the shadows, like when a person is this way, you want to create, if there wasn't good lighting, that shadows that you want to create, then you have to crisscross. So up here, there will be crisscrossing of lines in order to create the shadow. Because this is done on copper, and because you're just printing this on something, and you got to draw all these lines from cheeks all the way over and noses and all that, it will make the image look like they, from a distance, have a darker pigmentation. But if you examine it closely, zoom in on a really good picture of it, you will see all the cross lines. Like here, there will be cross lines. You will see all those cross lines in order to create those shadows. And that is what the Hebrew Israelites has mistakenly utilized to make you think that King James is black, when in truth, King James, who is the great-great-grandson of King Henry VIII, is white, is Caucasian. All of them were Caucasian. None of them were darkly melanated people. They were all Caucasian. So here's the moral problem with that. King James would have existed in late 1500s to early 1600s. What was going on in Europe at that time? There was the colonization of Africa, as well as the enslavement of the West Africans, for the most part, into the Americas, as well as into Europe. Now, as far as my own family, because I know this is where the Hebrew Israelites say that the slaves, that they were only taking Jews. But no, my family was not. My mother's family were Yoruba, and they practiced Ifa, a version of Ifa back then. They came from West Africa. They came from the Nigeria area. That's where my mother's family came from. They were not Hebrews at all. That's why I told you I'm not Hebrew. Now, the other reason why I'm not Hebrew, nor in your comment where you say I wear an unk, so why am I wearing the symbol of the people who enslaved my people? Because I'm not Hebrew. Nor am I Kemetic. I'm not Kemetic either. Now, My father's family, they were Mali, and they came and they first went to Italy, and then from Italy in the 1600s, they were in England. They were the family. This is where my family adopted or were given, forced upon them, the Reed name. The last name Reed, Reid, stands for red man or ruddy man. But that's where they were given, forced upon them, the Reed name. So what you are suggesting is that a black king sat on the throne at a time frame when England was enslaving black people in West Africa. Regardless of religion, they were enslaving them. You're also suggesting that a black king was sitting on the throne in England during the time frame that 100 years prior to that, they invented white supremacy. 100 years prior, white supremacy was invented, creating a separation between the melanated people and the light melanated, the heavily melanated people and the light melanated people, and created a system that said that those people didn't have souls and that they should be enslaved during this time frame. They allowed for a black king to sit on that throne. Does that in any way sounds like it is plausible that they would allow a black king to sit on the throne while they were teaching that they have been teaching the people about white supremacy for multiple generations, for 3-4 generations? This is what they have been teaching their people. They were enslaving African people based on Pope Eugenius the fourth and the fourth and Pope Nicholas V proclamations that it is the European Christians' duty to go into Africa and take these people and put them in slavery in perpetuity because they were not Christian. That he told them. The only other people that they were taking into slavery based on those proclamations were the Saracens, which is another version of Islam. Those were the people they were enslaving during that time frame based on what the Pope required of them as Christian nations. But they allowed a black man to sit on this throne after they had said that the black people were less than, not fully human, but a black king sat on the throne. Is that plausible? Now, as far as the Ethiopian Bible is concerned, the Ethiopian Bible was not even into existence until 500, until the 500s. And the fact of the matter is, Ethiopia was not a Christian. Well, let me rephrase that. The Ethiopian was not a Christian nation until the 500. The books may have been were there prior to, but only about 200 years prior to, 300 years prior to, were the books there. But the Ethiopian didn't become a Christian nation until 500, and the only reason they became that from the Axiom, and they weren't in Ethiopia, it was the Axiom Empire. It turned to Ethiopia later. The Axiom Empire became that because they wanted to have closer ties and friendlier ties with Rome, which after 480 had became a all-Christian nation. Now, there were some Christians in Axiom at that time frame, but they were not in charge of Jack Diddley until 500. I forgot the king's name. I think his name King Mansa, something like that is his name. But and then what does it really matter? Considering the fact that all Bibles pull from the Sumerians and the Kemetic, all their stories. Genesis is a Kemetic story. It's a mixture of Kemetic, Sumerian, Babylonian, Assyrian, Akkadian. It's a mixture of all their stories. All that whole first writing of the Bible. And the New Testament, Jesus, that was created by Vespasian and Josephus and Philo of Alexander. But since you're Hebrew Israelite, all your first stories are made up. You don't get into anything real until after the Babylonian captivity, to which they included a lot of Babylonian traditions and religion into the Hebrew culture. So King James wasn't black at all. Please go research it. And nor was the Ethiopian Bible. Doesn't even matter. So have a great day. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration. Nice talking to you, Edward Byrne.